Welcome to the Podium Proof F1 podcast. I'm Frank Alessi.
And as usual, I'm David Alessi.
Glad that has not changed.
Nope, not this week.
All right. 2023 is in the books. Abu Dhabi Grand Prix is done and dusted. And as customary on this podcast and F1 in general, we're going to start with talking about Max.
Hey, I did not see that one coming.
Right. I haven't checked, but I'd be curious to see if the sports books even give a line on him winning anymore.
I'm sure they do, but Jesus, I'd be curious to see what that line is.
I would imagine it had to be like minus 350 or something.
At least.
Minus 300, something like that.
Yeah.
So, man, actually, a fairly exciting Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. With the exception of 21 for obvious reasons, it's typically not that great of a race.
Yeah.
I would genuinely like to see them have a different track as the finale.
Yeah, I would agree. In general, I don't hate the track. I don't have any big qualms against it, but
you got two passing zones.
For the finale, I'd like to see Brazil, something that is going to give an awesome last race.
Yep.
It kind of pains me to say this.
I know. I was thinking it.
Vegas.
In time.
Yeah.
Iron out all the kinks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's as crazy as it is to say, if it only gets better from here, that'd be a fan-freaking-tastic way to close out the season. I think they had 99 overtakes in that race.
Oh, I didn't look at that number. I mean,
think about it, like, with all that's at stake, obviously the championship been wrapped up for a while, but I mean, you had battles throughout the field happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To seal it off with a race like that, with 99 overtakes, people just going at it left and right,
mm-hmm.
in a fairly bunched up field, that would be freaking insane.
You heard it here first.
Right? If I can't get Malaysia back on, let's go with that.
Yeah, right, man. Look, one of these times,
that'll be my new cause.
One of these times, we're gonna get something.
No, I'm never giving up on Malaysia. All these,
I haven't heard that in a while.
All these tracks that they're adding, bro. Malaysia got to come back.
I thought you had given up hope for a little while.
I never give up hope. I love that track. I think it's awesome. I think it's got everything.
With the exception of a few, just get rid of all the street circuits and bring back more of the old school tracks.
You know what I think would be cool? Well, no, like, man, I think you could do away with some of the other tracks, like, China. Russia's probably not coming back.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
I'd have to go through and look. I think there's a fair amount that could be swapped out.
Yeah. I don't like Mexico. I don't like the track.
Yeah, I don't really care for that one either, but I don't think that one's going anywhere.
I don't think it is, but
although
I don't care for the track.
When Checo goes, how much weight does it carry? Especially if he doesn't go on his own terms.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that support they lose.
I bet a lot.
Feels like it.
Yeah. But all right, wait. Let's not dive too far into that. Let's save. We can save a lot of that for the season recap
or the off season in general.
Yeah. We'll try to keep this one within our normal rabbit hole spirals of
right.
Keep it to Abu Dhabi, and we'll save most of the rest of it for season recap, off-season episodes, etc., etc.
Word.
But before we get into that, I am getting into this bottle here, which I have not. Yeah, there we go. Ooh, I was getting a little worried about that cork, even though it's a synthetic one. I have not been in this bottle in actually quite some time, and it is time.
I can't see what it is.
This is the Booker's. Which one is this? No Strangers batch. From 21.
I actually had my hands on my Bookers earlier.
Did you?
Yeah. But
so
I
this
decided
one
against it.
Comes in at a 124.4 proof, 6 years, 6 months, 12 days old. And it is something else.
I'm not going to call it a boycott, but I'm borderline there with Bookers.
I mean, I don't get a lot of opportunities to buy Bookers.
I don't either because I don't live in Texas, but
right. But with that being said, if I did have the frequent opportunity, I think I'd be on the same page with you.
Like, they have gone up so much over the past 3 years.
Yeah.
It's over $100 a bottle, man, for 6-year-old fucking bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. Some batches are good, but dude, I've had quite a few. I'd have been mad if I paid 50 or 60.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only bottle of it that I've had that I've owned. And then you had, because the same time, because we opened both of the Bookers, I think, in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And you had, that was April of 21.
Yeah, I had to tag along. I have the tag along.
Yeah, which I think was the release after, like the next quarter or something after this one, or they were right there close to each other.
Yeah, they were close.
And they were vastly different. I think this one was the better one.
Yeah, so if you remember, yours, the nose was terrible.
Yes, but the palate was great.
Yeah, mine was the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say this. Mine, the palate and the taste of it has gotten significantly better as the bottle opened up.
Oh, yeah. As has the nose on this one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been so long since I've been in this bottle. I don't remember just how much it has or hasn't changed in taste, but I mean, I do remember, after first getting into it, that second time, weeks after or whatever, it had changed a good bit.
Yeah.
All for the better.
So I'm going to go ahead and take a little flight down the Weller train.
Ooh, I don't remember it being quite so hot on the palate.
That's a normal Booker's thing.
I just don't remember it being like that.
Yeah, we're gonna take a little tour of the Wellers. We're gonna start with a 12. Weller 12 tonight. This, I believe,
starting at the top, huh?
I believe this is the first pour that I've had since me and you demolished half of it when we opened it.
That one disappeared quick that night.
Yeah, that's Weller 12, man. It's one of those like it just goes down so easy. It's easy to just destroy it.
Because hell, we opened that. That was
When we got back from Coda
Coda
last year.
Coda of 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one just sitting for a while.
Bro, I make my good ones last.
Yeah, I'd do the same.
Like a Weller 12, dude. Like I don't know when I'm gonna see that again.
Yeah, well,
I didn't technically I didn't really see it the first time. The only reason I got it was because I got, you know, good people.
yeah, that's that Weller foolproof that I've got. You know,
That's a lottery.
yeah, that was a lottery win, my one and only. You know, hell, half the bottles up there. I'm probably not gonna see again.
Yeah. I'm gonna have a pour of this one and then we'll do one of the antique 107. And if the mood strikes, then we'll just start crushing the special reserve. That's why I set it up in that order.
Yeah, no, that was smart. Yeah. All right, let's dive into this.
All right.
So,
go ahead and lead it off.
Max Verstappen, another victory. 19?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 19 wins in the RB19. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, a fitting way to cap off a absolutely record-setting year.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So,
speaking of records,
I've got a little list here, and I just want to reel them off just to kind of put it into perspective.
Yeah, might as well get comfy. Gonna be here for a while then.
I don't even know, like, if this is official, if this is all of them. But here we go. Highest winning percentage in a season, most wins in a season, most consecutive wins, most wins from pole in a season, most consecutive wins from pole, most hat tricks in a season, most points in a season, most podiums in a season, most consecutive top 2 finishes, most laps led in a season, most pit stops to a race win. Ash, put a mark by that one. Most races left after becoming champion. Most consecutive races as championship leader. Biggest championship gap to P2. First driver to win the Big Four: Monaco, Silverstone, Spa, Monza. I didn't know that's what they called them. I thought they were original 4.
Yeah.
First driver to win every race in Europe. That's crazy. Longest streak of converting poles to wins, and 1,000 laps led this season.
That's a list.
Bruh.
God. I mean,
dude.
If you look up dominance in the Webster's dictionary, there is a picture of Max Verstappen.
Yes. I mean, it's look, no matter who you for, dude, like this was an astonishing season to watch.
Yeah. And look, just to negate any naysaying of how dominant it is, you know, yes, this season had way more races than previous years when comparing dominant years, right? But if you take this year and those years, convert it to percentages, he still was dominant. He still did better.
Yeah, I mean, you could almost make the argument that the longer the season is, the harder it would be to hold the percentages.
Yeah. Well, each race carries less percentage gained. So,
But I'm just saying,
you
like,
have to
there's
do it
there's
more.
more possibility for something to go wrong. There's more possibility for somebody to catch you. You
Hmm.
know, like it's just he finished every race. He completed every lap this year.
Yeah. One thing.
I mean, he won the constructors by himself by 170 points.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I don't know, and I hadn't looked at, and I don't really recall hearing anybody talk about it. They always talk about how many more races there are now than back in the day. Have the races gotten significantly longer? Has that really changed?
I don't think so.
Because, I mean, if they have,
I mean,
then okay, so yeah, that makes that number of laps led a little bit easier to obtain, but it also increases chance for error and makes it that much more astonishing. You know,
and
um,
that much more strain and wear and tear on the engines.
yeah.
You
Well,
know,
the
like
engines, the
it used to
gearbox,
be.
the driver, the everything.
I mean, shit is dangerous, bro. When you lap that many cars around the back of the field, going past that many guys that are just not that good.
Yeah. Hmm.
He spends more time around the back end of the field than than the other guys in the front.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's just we've said it over and over this year, every episode almost, just absolutely incredible performance from Max, from the team, from I mean the whole works, right? It's yes, Max does incredible things with that car, but it's also largely in part to the rest of the team and the strategists and just everything, from Hannah Schmidt to Adrian Newey to Christian to, I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah,
Which, all
stunning.
right, so on the topic of some of the names in that team, um, something that was said over the radio from Christian to Max about Max helping Christian win a bet against Helmet,
Hmm.
and Helmet bet against Max.
Yeah, what was that about?
First of all, that he
I
would
heard
qualify
about it.
front row, something like that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
First of all, what what kind of sack of shit is gonna bet against your number one guy your best guy that the team has ever had driving? And two, who, regardless of where he stands as far as what the team has ever seen, you really gonna bet against him this season? Like, have you watched any race this year at all?
I'd be willing to bet that was more of a inside joke kind of thing. I think the bet may have been real, but I think it may have been more of an inside joke because $500 to them is essentially a gentleman's bet
That's a
with us.
gentleman's bet to us, yeah.
So I would be willing to bet it was some kind of joke that became real.
Maybe so, but
Like they were on the back foot a little bit because of how FP1 and 2 went. And then FP3, they didn't look great. So, you know, maybe just, and look, Helmet knows Max. That's the kind of thing, like, he didn't have nothing to race for. Like, I don't know if any of those, aside from the 1,000 laps, I don't know if any of those stats that I just reeled off change if he doesn't win this race.
probably not.
That's probably all you need. Like Michael Jordan back in the day, he'd like make shit up to motivate himself.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's just Helmet's way of being like, Bro, Lando and George gonna pip you out in quali.
Yeah, but I don't think Max knew anything about it ahead of time. Although, I mean, I get the thought process there, and I think
No.
you're probably right. But
Maybe not.
still, it's another
Either way, it's probably
another nail in the coffin for a helmet, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't know what the deal with him is in this team anymore, but I doubt he's going anywhere until he decides he's ready.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Just stop saying dumb shit on whenever
Right.
people put a mic in front of your face, and nobody will care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but chances of that happening are slim.
I know, especially as he gets older.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's all right. Eventually, he'll say something dumb enough where they're like, all right, that's it. Time for you to go.
yeah. All right. So Checo. I mean, look, another solid race performance. But bruh, this dude he shits the bed every single time in qualifying, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Out in Q1.
No. Carlos was out in Q1.
Carlos was out. He was out. Yeah, because he went what 14th.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. Yeah, out in Q2.
Q2.
That's right. Carlos was 16. He was 14.
I mean, and there's no real reason for it.
No. Other than just, unless there is just something drastic behind the scenes that none of us are privy to. It just seems like he can't come to grips with the car in the way that it should be, in order to extract what the car has. We obviously know what the car is capable of.
Right.
Dial that back some and you get what the car is capable of, not what Max is capable of. But yeah, I mean, again, he's still not hitting that mark.
No. I mean, look, obviously, anytime you put a car that's on point in the hands of a Max or a Lewis or a Michael or somebody like that, it's going to elevate the performance of it that you can't expect everyone else to achieve. But I mean, there's gotta be, you gotta get to some level. I'm telling you, if anybody is to catch Red Bull, they are going to be in trouble. Because then it won't be, okay, once you get the right set of tires on it in the race, you're not going to be marching back through the field. You're going to be screwed back there in P8.
Yep.
And I would imagine that gap, I don't know. Word on the street is they are supposedly having a pretty significant change for next year. Red Bull. That interests me a whole lot.
Yeah.
Which we'll dive way deep into that down the road, but it's intriguing because, I mean, let's say you don't nail it like you have. I mean, Checo's going to be in a bind. Max is going to be fine no matter what happens. But, I mean, like you see even this race, like he would have had a P3, he would have had a podium, but the way he's having to, barge through the field, he goes and does something and gets himself 5-second penalty.
Yep.
Now, I don't agree with that penalty at all. I think it was a stupid penalty. However, the more I think about it, I think he feels like he has to be more aggressive than he's maybe comfortable doing or being as he's making these charges back through the field. Because, man, like, you've seen him this year trade a lot of paint.
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
With some real bonehead moves.
Yeah. Now, I'm not calling this one bonehead because I don't think it was. But I think it just goes to show, like, he's constantly having to push the issue.
Yeah, well, and look, I mean, the whole world has seen what happens if you are in that seat and you don't go for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, say what you want about how safe Checo is or isn't, what his contract says. He knows that as well as anybody. You know, he saw it. He knew that's what he was stepping into. So I'm sure that does take precedence in his thought process of going for moves.
I mean, I get that, but at the same time, like, Red Bull's in a completely different place now than they were previously in the previous regs.
Mm-hmm.
So, bro, dedicate all your effort to figuring something out in the way you qualify that car, and all your problems go away.
Yeah.
All of them. Like, they're at the point with Max, like, obviously, when it was Albon and Gasly and all, like you knew he was special, but you really didn't know, like, what level it could get to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, nobody in the team expects you to compete with Max. All you have to do is take care of what the car is capable of, and the rest of the grid shouldn't be able to compete.
Yeah. Take care of that number 2 spot.
And
That's
that's
your
the
job.
problem. Like, yeah, he locked up number 2, but I mean, when you look at the way in which he went about it, like, he made it way harder than it had to be.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Without a doubt.
I feel like we just bashing on Checo, but I guess we are a little bit. But when you look at the way the season started, 2 years in a row, how strong he was in the beginning of the season, and just to have him tail off, it's not a good look.
It's not.
Because, like I said, when the competition gets stiffer, that's when it's going to be the most important. And if you can't drive that car as the car gets potentially faster, that's a huge problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, man, like, I know Danny Rick is just back in it and had a rough go because of the injury and all that. But the way Red Bull develops their car suits Danny Rick to a T. And Red Bull doesn't have to announce anything but on their time scale because they run both teams. They can flip-flop whenever they want. But I think it wouldn't surprise me to see Danny Rick back in that car.
Yeah, and we've talked about that
because I don't think Danny Rick would do worse than Checo is doing. But
no,
I think the upside is much larger.
Yeah, and we've talked about that possibility and that playing out that way a few times. And I think it's entirely possible. And I think
Danny Rick's a much better qualifier too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think just all
And
around.
that would just solve so many problems for the second car here.
Oh, it absolutely would. If you can start it better on Sunday, then half your problems are solved.
Right.
Yep.
But yeah, let's dive into that penalty a little bit, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I gave my take on it, and it was kind of like the perfect example of what we got into an argument about last week with the penalties. Because there you have a penalty where, I mean, you could go back and forth on who was quote unquote technically in front or had the right to the corner or whatever. To me, that's a what and what deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like that could go either way. You could find an argument for either one of them. Did Checo dive bomb? Yeah. Is dive bombing illegal? No.
No, and that's how every pass is made if it's not a DRS pass.
Right. But look, he took a shot, and I think it was one that was worth making. He caught a little bit of understeer. A little bit. It made him push a little bit wide. But man, Lando, with as tight as Checo was coming in, Lando didn't leave any space.
Mm-mm.
He turned in aggressively.
Yeah, well, and I think he knew.
I'm not saying either one were wrong.
Yeah. No, and I'm in agreement with you on that one. I think that was racing incident because I think both parties had some part in it, right? Some blame to accept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Checo dove up the inside and he did two things. One is when you're going for an inside pass like that, one of the methods you can go about it is to hold that guy on the outside deep and stay next to him to where he can't turn in. Now you have forced him out into the marbles, less traction. You didn't even really give him the opportunity to go side by side with you, and you took away the possibility of him doing an over under.
Timeout.
So
timeout. So while that's valid, I think the way that Checo waited so late to go for that pass, I think that move was probably off the table.
No, I mean, looking at the in car, when he did start to turn, he was already trying to push Lando even deeper. Like he already waited and had kind of already given up trying to go for the apex in an effort to just push him deeper and keep him way on that outside.
Right.
The problem is
what I'm saying is like ideally when you make that kind of move, it's when you're already like neatly alongside.
Not necessarily.
To block the clean way to do it.
Well, in any other form of racing, yes, where the dive bomb and the quick jut out and all of a sudden put yourself alongside them is the F1 way. I get what you're saying, but that's just not how they make their passes. Like it's few and far between. But I mean, so look, Checo, it appeared that's what he was trying to do, and then when he did turn in, he caught some understeer. And what did he do to try to fight that understeer? He shuffled the wheel a little bit, opened it back up, and then turned again. He was not turning into or letting his car just run into Lando. He was trying to manage the understeer that he inevitably caused for himself. At the same time, Lando has Checo right next to him and knows that he can't turn in. But I think Lando was just kind of turning where he expected Checo to run him out to. Had Checo not caught that understeer, then they would have went through just fine, no contact, and Checo would have had the spot. But it didn't work that way. So, did Checo run into Lando? Yes. Did Lando turn into Checo? Yes. Both happened, right?
Right.
From both angles, they both made an error that resulted in some contact. It should have just been a racing incident. Should have been.
I agree with Checo in his radio transmission. Absolute freaking joke.
And on top of that, going into that turn, Lando was in the front. And then when that happened, when they came out, Lando was in front.
Right. They both lost some shards of carbon fiber. Lando shot off of the track after the contact.
Yeah.
Cut the next corner. Checo kept it on the track. And Lando way extended his gap.
He did.
To which it took Checo another 3 laps. At least 2.
I think it might have been 2. I don't think it was quite 3, but
to pass him.
Yeah. So I mean, it's one of those things, right? Okay, let's just say Checo was completely at fault there. Well, guess what? He essentially conceded the position back. Mm-hmm. And that's normally, when something like that happens, that's, what do they say? You have like 2 laps to concede the position, because the stewards are never going to make the decision in 2 laps. It's going to be well beyond. So the position was immediately conceded back. Therefore, that should have wiped any penalty. Mm-hmm. Now, if that happened and Checo was found at fault and he made it through there in front and did not concede the position, okay, penalty. But, again, it's not consistent, because there's been numerous times over the last year where something similar has happened and team has come over the radio and said, hey, give him the position back. And then what happens? He gives him the position back. Oh, no penalty, right? Because it was sorted out on track and the playing field was now even.
I mean, look, the fact of the matter is a penalty on something that affected nothing in the grand scheme of things, in terms of where, like,
a penalty that affected nothing, that affected a lot.
Yeah, I mean, essentially that cost Ferrari P2 in the constructors.
Mm-hmm. Now, Ferrari cost Ferrari P2 in the constructors, but
even with Carlos's woes, they would have been P2 in the constructors.
Yeah, but you could also argue the flip side of that had they not made the mistakes with Carlos, Checo's penalty wouldn't have mattered. So, I agree with you. Yes, that penalty essentially did cost them.
Yeah, but you can't put those two things together.
Well, you can't put their losing P2 on Checo. I mean, hypotheticals and all. Yeah, we can do that all night.
I'm not putting it on Checo. I'm putting it on stewards.
Well, yes. Checo's incident.
Over giving penalties for bullshit, non-issue things.
Where not there's not them where they should be.
Where there's not a clear-cut offender.
Yeah.
And it's a incident of no consequence.
And the messed up thing is,
in terms of the one-on-one racing, Lando kept ahead, Checo caught him back up and passed him again. Like it all worked itself out perfectly on track. Nobody's car was really affected, and it's like it's so dumb. When I mean, look, earlier in the if you're giving penalties out for something like that, earlier in the race, I forget who it was, maybe one of the Alpines or AlphaTauris or something. Somebody locked up in front of Lewis, and
Oh yeah.
Lewis just let his car just cruise into the back of him
Mm-hmm.
and hit him.
Yep.
I
That
mean,
was who was that? Was that Danny Rick?
I really don't remember who it was, but it's not important. It's
No, it's
something
not.
of the same significance.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and now take Checo and Lando and put that lap 1, turn 1, and hell, amplify it, make it worse, and they're going to say, it's a racing incident, start
Mm-hmm.
of the race, turn 1. It's like,
Maybe,
man,
unless it's Pierre Gasly, and they'll give him a penalty no matter what.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, dude, it's the same thing over and over again that we're bitching about. Same thing.
It really is. It's sad.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But anyway, let's move on to P2 in the race. Charles Leclerc drove fantastic race. Gave Max another exciting run for his money on the first lap.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Went
and he
after him
was
3 times.
yeah, and
And
then
dude, like Max is
for
just such a
the
killer, bro.
first,
Like he wasn't. See, that was the thing. Like Max drove that like he had nothing to lose.
mm-hmm.
Charles drove that like he had everything to lose, in which he did.
Yes.
Um, had that been a normal circumstance, I think though any one of those 3 attempts wind up very different.
Agreed. Yeah, 100%. Dude, I don't think we saw those 3 attempts from Charles throughout the entire rest of the race. A similar pass in that same location, same pass, same location from one driver to another happened. And the driver that was in Max's position was not able to keep that position.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, he just stuck it where he was at, and
I mean, look, it's one of those things. Like I think Charles went for it, but he was not going to ruin his race for it
no, he wasn't,
because ultimately, you're not racing Max,
right?
And then like, look, he stuck with Max in that first stint.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
to a second and a half.
Yeah, he floated from like 1.3 to 1.6 for a while, and then he got down to like 0.7.
Yeah. Yeah, like he started closing back Max down again. We saw better tire life on the Ferrari after being under 2 seconds away the whole time.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if Charles just figured something out with the tires, because Carlos didn't seem to have the same deal. I don't know. Of course, he never got to run those mediums, but that we'll get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, Charles was closing him down again, and then they pitted Max, and then at that point, even though the undercut was the way to go, as far as strategy goes, I think you saw Ferrari pull something that was very mature of them, in a sense where they realize they're not racing Max. You're going to kill yourself and sacrifice more if you try and go with Max, which who knows? Maybe they could have. Because, all right, I think the final gap was 15 seconds to Charles.
What was it? 17, call it 18. 17-9.
Okay. So, they left him out there. I forget how many laps. If you got it pulled up, how many laps after Max?
Let's see.
You know, they realized that the tire offset versus Russell.
Max pitted on 16. Charles was the lap after.
On the first one?
Yep. Charles was on 17.
I don't know why I thought it was longer. I guess they both went significantly longer than the other two. Than like George and Lando.
George and Lando were on lap 14.
Yeah, so Charles went 3 laps deeper than them. You know, they put themselves in position to keep track position, but to have a significant tire advantage where, and you saw it, they came out right in front of George, and within a matter of 2 laps had the gap out to 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that right there just kind of shows you where Ferrari has made it to. Because at a track like Abu Dhabi, I feel like 6-7 races ago, that would not have been the case.
Well, Ferrari had 2 very different showings this weekend, split across their 2 garages. So one side of the garage to another, the strategy decisions and what appeared to be the level of competency was vastly different.
I disagree with that, but we'll get there. But let me just preface that with saying, they did not have Carlos didn't have ample time to set the car up, I don't believe. After his P2 crash, they had to rebuild everything. And the thing is, like, from what I understand, Charles and Carlos rarely follow the same setup direction. I mean, or maybe direction's wrong, but the fine tuning things, because they don't like the same things out of a car. So when Carlos misses all of FP2, essentially, I think that probably hampered his weekend right there.
Well, yeah, but that has nothing to do with the poor strategy calls.
No. It doesn't. I'm just talking about the general pace.
Yeah, I have no doubt that was a huge portion of the lack of pace that he had. Absolutely. The problem,
that's why I wanted to preface that, because just talking about why he was where he was.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the problem was that, so Carlos started the race on the hards, one of 2 drivers to do so. and they did not have the tire life out of the hards like expected. The tire deg was much higher, and that was really across the grid. It wasn't a Ferrari specific thing. But the issue comes where they cannot, I don't want to say cannot. This instance, they were not able to successfully realize that, call an audible, and execute it. They had their plan of what appears to have been a plan for a one stop, hard medium. But when the hards fell off a lot earlier than expected, they could not execute an audible. And they brought him in, put him on another set of hards. Okay, fine. But then they wanted to wait for a safety car. Carlos was told, we're just waiting for a safety car to bring you in for your second stop. Which, hey, look, that's fine, right? We talked about it earlier. The percentage at Abu Dhabi is pretty high for that to happen. That's fine. But if you are going to do that, you have to have a cutoff. You have to have, okay, look, if we don't get it by X lap, we're coming in. Because your plan was to put him on the mediums and let him make up any time lost on the hards. Now, yes, you lost some additional time with figuring out that the hards weren't going to last you like you thought they were. But, you know, if you're going to do that plan for a safety car, you've got to have a cutoff point. You've got to have a point to where, okay, we need to bring him in now. That way we give him enough time left in the race, enough laps in order to make up this difference that he has lost because of our offset or our particular strategy. You have to give him the chance, and they didn't. They hung him out to dry, just waiting on a safety car, and they brought him in on the last freaking lap. Like, what the hell? It was terrible. Not last lap, second to last lap, right? Because there was 58 laps.
Yeah, but he would have gone a lap down. I think he was in the pits when the race ended, so he didn't even finish.
He technically DNF'd, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So look, I agree. I 100% I agree with what you said. I do think there was some. I mean, look, they're sitting there analyzing all the data, and like we were talking about before, maybe they're looking at the numbers and being like, "Jesus, man, like these tires have cost us so much time. We don't even think we can get back into points without a safety car." In which case, if you get that safety car, then you're on softs, and the pack is bunched back up, and you can blast through the field. I get it. All right, I get it. However, being that it was the last race of the season, and what was at stake, I would have liked to have seen a more aggressive attempt. And like, okay, we realize these aren't going to go the distance we need for a one stop. We're going to go two stop. Carlos, we're putting the second set of hards straight away. Go tear them up. Because technically, they don't need a last 30 laps. We need them to we need you to get, 20 out of them.
Yeah.
So bring them in nicely, and then pedal to the freaking metal. We're not managing shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully you get yourself to a spot where, maybe you have 15 to go, and you slap on a fresh set of mediums.
Yeah.
And you're the only car on the track on medium tires.
Mm-hmm. And
That
you've given your driver enough laps to go out and make up that deficit.
right.
Because it didn't take long to realize that Charles's race was against George and Carlos's race was against Lewis. So, you know, at a certain point, you need to adjust your entire strategy to Carlos needs to beat Lewis.
Although one thing that really makes me question, and like I said, we don't have all the data that they have, obviously, but typically Carlos would be very on top of that. So I kind of feel like if he's not pushing for the complete opposite of that, he must have known something that we don't. Because Carlos is that dude that's always just kind of in tune to that.
Yeah, you are right on that.
Like he will 100% make a strategy call and be like, no, that's wrong. We need to do it like this. Adjust, whatever. And he's usually pretty direct as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, look, like I said, maybe that was the best play. Just aesthetically, it didn't look like it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really, it just didn't look like they were going for it. But maybe if you run all the numbers, maybe it is. I don't know.
I mean, I'd like to hope so, but yeah, from our point of view, it looked vastly different from one side of that garage to the other.
Yeah.
It felt like.
And look, dude, that goes back to Carlos just not getting the car in the right spot to qualify it.
Sure.
Just like Checo, like that's you had no business getting eliminated in Q1.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't make any mistakes. You didn't have the pace.
Yeah. Well, but like you prefaced with, his pace could be attributed to the crash and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure.
It's at least his in this instance. It's justifiable.
I still feel like in a Red Bull, a Ferrari, or Mercedes, you shouldn't be getting knocked out in Q1.
No, even given the rebuild and all that.
Like if you don't put it off the track or have a time to lead it, like you shouldn't make like a giant mistake. You shouldn't be out in Q1.
Yeah.
Especially like when Carlos set his lap, dude, the track was evolving like crazy. And I don't even know if he improved.
Hell, I'm trying to remember if he did or not.
If he did, it wasn't by much.
I think he did, but it wasn't.
Yeah, he did. I think he jumped up one spot.
It was one or two.
He went to 15. Wherever he was at before, he went to 15. Which took one spot to knock him out.
Right.
Which was Checo Perez.
Which was Checo. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not a good one. Not a good weekend for him.
How about that little bit of racecraft with Leclerc towards the end?
Dude, that was looking like it was gonna work out pretty well. That was gonna be smooth. He had the right idea, and I don't know if because he told the team to feed him the data, and I don't know if he just wasn't getting enough data to be able to really play it out, or or what the deal was, but also you had to try to find line, right?
No, I know what you're about to say. That's not plausible because you needed Checo to fall behind you.
No, I know. What I'm saying is I don't know if was he not getting enough data fed to him, because the fine line he had to walk was I'm gonna need to back up from Checo, let Checo by, and back him up, which is gonna back George up. George is now gonna go from being what was he, 2 seconds, a second and a half behind Charles, to now being
like 2.7.
Was it that much? It was. No. Well, whatever it was, doesn't matter. He's now going to back himself into George.
Checo, I think, was 3.9 behind. I mean, George 3.9 ahead of George.
Yeah. One of them was 1.5 to Charles. One of them was whatever that difference is. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter. He had to make sure that Checo got out far enough, but as he did that, George is going to be brought in closer to him. So, the fine line is don't let Checo cross the line at 5.1 just because you're focused on how far Checo is from George, right?
Well, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying.
You could very, very quickly teeter the wrong way over that line. So
that's what I'm saying. I don't think that was ever part of the plan because of that. Like, it's way too risky of a move. Like, if you just needed Checo to finish ahead of George and you could have still sealed it or whatever, like whatever the case may be, like that's way too risky. If he had one more lap, it happens. Because I think Charles' whole thing was, I'm going to let Checo by and I'm just going to stick with him. And whatever Checo can pull, he can pull, because the other play is way too risky.
Well, no, that
because
he
you make one mistake, and George passes you, and then it's all for nothing. Like, you don't try and back George up in that situation.
Well, no, that was the plan, but it just became too risky to try to thread that needle. So he was only gonna do but so much.
No,
because he didn't want to risk it.
No, he was not going to try and back George up. There's no way. He was just he was gonna get out of the way of Checo to where Checo can just haul ass down the road. He towed him along and gave him some DRS, but I
the only reason to let him by is to try to gap yourself and George from Checo to where Checo lands between the two of you.
Yeah, after the penalty.
Right, that's what I'm saying. The plan was to let Checo by and build the gap to where Checo's penalty lands him between them two.
Exactly what I said.
Not to try to follow him up the road. He knew damn good and well that Checo wasn't going to build him and Checo together weren't going to build a 5-second gap.
David, no. I'm not saying that.
That's what you said. You said he was trying to just follow him and stick with him.
Yeah, like not to race him or to be right there, but just what I meant was he wasn't going to drop back and try and back Russell up.
He even said that to George in the Max After Race podcast. He was talking about trying to back him up, but it ended up being too risky.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like,
that was the plan.
Obviously,
that was exactly the plan.
The thought was there, but it was never going to be executed. No,
it was more than the thought. That was the plan, but then as it tried to be put into play, it became too risky. The plan was never try to just you and Checo haul ass on up the road and gap yourself from George.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did. You said he was trying to he was going to try to stick with Checo.
Yeah,
and just haul up the road.
You're taking it too fucking too literally. Like,
no, I'm taking exactly what you said. I'm taking the words that you said.
Dude, when I say it like that, it's like literally he lets him go by and then just slots back in and continues on. I'm not like,
Yeah, what
that's
was that
all
going
I'm
to
saying.
accomplish? That wasn't going to accomplish anything. So there was no point to let him by. The
Jesus
plan
fucking
was
Christ, dude.
to gap yourself.
You can't. It's too risky to do that,
Then
which is
why
what he
even
wound
let
up
him by
saying.
if that wasn't the plan?
To give him free air to try and build the gap, and then you stay behind. You make sure you keep tabs to where that gap does not get larger to you.
They were not going to leave George to where that would ever work.
It was working.
No, it was working because Charles was letting him get away to a certain point, and then it became too risky.
Bro, Checo finished 3.9 seconds ahead of George.
Yeah.
One more lap, and he's 5 seconds ahead of George, and Charles can stay a second and a half behind Checo and win-win.
Charles let him get out to that. He let him get out and then did not try to push the issue of threading that 5-second needle.
Bro, I'm done. I'm done.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Move on down to Mercedes. So Russell P3, Hamilton P9. To be honest with you, aside from a little bit of like towards the end with Hamilton, I honestly don't recall a lot of Hamilton's race and exactly
Why'd you
what all
skip the
transpired.
Mercedes? Why'd you skip the Mercedes? Oh, never mind. No, I mean the McLaren. I was gonna say the McLarens, but never mind.
Yeah,
We're going into Hamilton. Okay.
well, I was just
Just 'cause
going
of George.
into Mercedes and
Yeah.
just
No, my screen was screwed up here.
okay.
It was cutting out. We're good.
Yeah, McLaren's up next.
Yeah.
So yeah, I honestly don't really recall what put Hamilton where he was.
Bad qualifying.
Other
Again, he was out in
than
Q2. And he didn't have pace either.
Well, yeah, I was just saying, like other than just kind of not having the pace, anything strategy related or a decision made that just kind of screwed him. Like I didn't really catch much of, if any of that, if there was really any.
I'm gonna be honest. I very much am losing respect for Hamilton in a sense of, bro, this is the 22nd race of the season. We know the car is shit. Shut the fuck up and get your head down. You know what I mean? Like if you're supposed, like if you want to be proclaimed the GOAT, like so many people think he is, shut up and put your head down and just go execute. George Russell did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like these last
show us that you can take this shit car and do things with it that it shouldn't do.
Or even if you can't do that, like it might be that bad, but just put your head down and drive it. Like we know it's bad. Quit whining every fucking race.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's undrivable. I can't. We can't drive. This is unacceptable. You know, just always something like, you know, we get it.
Yeah.
And why does Toto feel the need to come on the radio? Oh, I'm so sorry, and just constantly apologize.
Yeah, I feel like
I'm so over that for 2 years, man.
Yeah. I feel like it would have a lot better result if Toto would come across the radio and be like, Lewis, we know, okay? We know it. Just put your head down and drive the damn car.
Yeah.
Do the best you can with it. Take it as far as you can.
I mean, some of it you got to put on Lewis because he's the one that gives the input for the setup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, he was trying different setups than George.
Well, no, I'm talking about this year. That was last year's excuse.
But that'll still be the argument or whatever it may be. there will be a reason. But yeah, I agree. It's and then but after the race, when the microphone gets put in front of them, it's all positive and it's all, we're making strides and we're constantly just working on it and improving everywhere we can. And we're it's like, well, that's not what you said in the cockpit. You remember that time when you wanted to just hang it up mid race? Like, what the hell? It's two completely different people.
Yeah, I'm over that, man. Look, I think that level of competitor should and the supposed team leader shouldn't be saying things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like at a certain point, you just got to put your head down and drive.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like as soon as those cars hit Parc Vermeil, there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
So what's the point? Like obviously, if it's something that you can fix in race via some kind of setting or a little bit of added downforce on the front wing or something like that, sure. But like just the open-ended complaints, bro, cut it out. Just
Mm-hmm.
enough, dude. Like we get it. You haven't had to drive a difficult car in like 10 years, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, man, like
I
I
mean,
don't know.
hell, look at the dumpster fire that McLaren was. You didn't hear Lando just steady bitching. You know, he might have. I mean, yeah, he would come over the radio and complain about a specific thing, but it was a look. Here's the problem I'm experiencing. Here's what we're dealing with right now.
But even if he
You know,
did, Lando is not Lewis Hamilton.
no, I
You know
know.
what I mean? So
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's a double standard, but that's the standard that gets set when you're a multi-time world champion.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. And that's it's tiring hearing it.
But it's like not constructive. That's the issue that I have with it. Right? Like
Right.
it's not constructive. It's like this defeatist mentality.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be one thing if it's even if you throw his fucking whining into it, right? Oh, guys, this car is shit. Okay, why? What is it doing that is not to your liking? How about some feedback other than it's shit or these tires are shit or it's undrivable?
Well, that's the thing. Like they're gonna talk about all that in a debrief. But
Yeah, but
it
when it's mid
look
race, if
here's
you give them some feedback mid race, they can make an aero adjustment, a wing adjustment on a pit stop, or whatever. Like,
yeah. But honestly, to me, it only seems that way when he's behind George. Don't fact check me on that. Like I don't. That's just what it seems like.
mm-hmm.
I could be wrong, but I don't
Yeah,
think I am.
I don't recall
But
enough times right off the top of my head to.
another thing that I noticed, man, is typically like it's very weird. You'll either see with the Mercedes, you'll either see the two of them almost in the same part of the track for the whole race, fighting each other, or you see one having a better than average race and the other having a very below average race.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you don't get you don't really get you haven't seen a ton of them where they're both like struggling to make the points, with the exception of Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
which we knew that wasn't going to be good. But in general, when it comes to setup, that was strictly a drag issue. Um, but like you'll see George fighting for podiums or whatever, or vice versa. Meanwhile, the other one's back in like P8.
Yeah. Yeah. It's rarely, yeah, like you said, it's rarely just they're both like, you know, 12, 14, 15 kind of together, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost, I don't know, I wonder if it's, I mean, of course there's teammate rivalry going on, right? But I wonder if there's more of that than meets the eye, or than what they're allowing the public to see given history. And it's, you know, because it's such a drastic difference when there is a difference, I wonder if it's like, you know, beginning of the weekend when one side is doing this with the setup, the other side is like, oh no, y'all are a bunch of idiots. You need to go the other way, do the opposite, right? And then what ends up happening, one of them works and one of them fails. You know, I wonder if that's kind of indicative of something more going on.
I don't know. I think there's a definite jousting for position inside of that team,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think I think Lewis is showing chinks in his armor. Um, I don't know. I don't get that feeling that Lewis still has that kind of aura of invincibility inside that team. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously George beat him last year overall in the season. I'm sure that didn't go well. Um, Lewis won this year. I think that was pretty front loaded, if I remember correctly. The the majority of the gap
Mm.
that happened, I think that was pretty front loaded to the season.
I think it might have been.
Um, you know, George has definitely been stronger the second half of the season, but I think they were what and what when it comes to qualifying. They were 11-11.
Yeah, they were. Or was that was going into
No, that
this
would have been
race,
final.
right?
No, that would have been final
Was that the
because it's
final?
22.
Oh shit. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and look, I don't know, man. Like, I'd be very curious to just be a fly on the wall inside a Mercedes, because, man, if they have a competitive car, I think this gets ramped up significantly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, significantly.
Yeah, no doubt.
And man, I know George does a lot of boneheaded things. But, you know, like we always talk about with every driver, man, there's that curve, that learning curve.
Yeah. Especially that, yeah, I get it's probably what you're referring to, that learning how to live at the front, essentially curve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he didn't have the chance to go even into the midfield, really.
He kind of went from the
He
back
went
to
from
the
back to
front.
front.
Yep.
I mean, granted, like they were kind of midfield last year, but they were still clear of everybody, the majority of the midfield most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, he never got that Alpine,
that true midfield, mid-pack.
yeah, like, you know, the conventional Alpine, AlphaTauri,
Yep.
you know, was McLaren, you know, group of 6 or 8 cars that you're just jousting all over the place.
Right.
And,
Yep.
and a lot of wheel-to-wheel racing. You
Mm-hmm.
just he didn't have that. It was few and far between when he had a car competitive enough in a race to be able to really challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, so his curve had to be a little extremer than a lot of the other drivers, but every one of them went through it.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yep.
You know, honestly, man, I would say, and I would say probably the cleanest one would be Carlos Sainz
Mm-hmm.
in terms of just being on the pace, being able to hold the pace, make the car perform, and not get involved in bonehead crashes with other drivers.
Yeah.
I think Piastri's done a fantastic job.
He very much has.
And I think him and Lando are both going to hit that curve at the same time. Lando got a small taste.
I think
in
with
21,
Lando, it's
but then it went away so hard. Like,
yeah. Well, it's with Lando, it was like he's had tons of that mid pack learning, right?
yeah,
And then he got to ahead of that mid pack and in the, if you will, just like the back of the front pack, with like the occasional get tossed into the actual front of it, right? So like he'd get little spurts of it here and there. Like I feel like Lando, he got staged through that actually fairly well, to where when he really does get to just live up at the front, I think he's going to be set up very well for it.
I think he will. I would like to see a little more kill mode out of Lando.
Yeah, and we've talked about that too, and
Yeah,
I'm curious to see if when the opportunity comes, right, when he's really got the car that can just live up there week in and week out, will we
because
see
like
that kind of come out of him?
this year, man, I feel like it would have been the perfect time to just let those demons out, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, because you weren't in it. It's
Yeah.
not like you were actually in the championship fight. It's like, freaking go for it, man. Max and
Mm-hmm.
Charles wouldn't have hesitated.
No.
Like,
No.
wouldn't have even thought twice. And that's what I want to see from Lando.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even like George, man. George fucking sends it, bro. Like, he
He
goes
does.
for it. You know, like, and he's aggressive in defending. Like, I think if they can get a competitive, that's why I think if they can get a competitive car, I think he's gonna be a problem.
Yep.
For everybody else, because he's got that aggression, man. And look, dude, I mean, I don't think the way Lewis has become accustomed to driving is going to be very conducive to winning a season-long battle you're fighting more than one person.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, he has, again, I mean, this has been numerous topics of conversation. He has been so accustomed to essentially what Max had this year, right? Really no challenge, and just winning that way. Uh, yeah, I agree with that completely. I don't think he would make it out. Put him in a season long battle for it, and I don't think he's going to make it out at the end very well.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's not blindingly fast, because I'll tell you right now, seeing them in person asserted in my head that Lewis Hamilton is as fast as any and is capable of anything that anybody can do on the grid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
we absolutely saw that.
there was 3 people on the grid that took their cars to a different level in a different, just an absolute different stratosphere of pace and commitment and send it than anybody else, and it was Max, Charles, and Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
And it like, I don't care if you never watched F1 before in your life. If you went and watched 17 cars go through this one section, and then you watch those 3, you'd be like, "Oh, that was different."
Yeah, it was visible to the naked eye without seeing any times, any nothing. Just watch them go through
And
these
not even
4
having an
turns.
aerial view to see how much more of the track they were using.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was clearly visible.
So
Absolutely.
don't mistake what I'm saying for me saying that Lewis has lost his talent, because that's not what I'm saying at all. I don't know if he still has that kill mode in him.
Mm-hmm.
He seems like he's more worried about the politics of F1 and the inner team politics than just being a savage on the track,
Right.
which I wish he would go back to, because that's the Lewis I could get behind. I can't handle fucking whining
Nope.
the way he does. Like, when Max is complaining about something, it's essentially like yelling that we need to get this fixed immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And Max just speaks more aggressively in general.
Yeah.
But it's not a whine. Like, there's a difference between, I don't know what it is. There's a difference between it.
There's a difference in I mean,
in the meaning behind the sentiment behind it.
voicing your we'll say voicing your complaint or voicing your displeasure comes very differently from one to the other, right? One, yes,
Yes.
one comes across as a whine, one comes across as like a hey, we need to fix this now.
I get this is the impression I get. Max is pissed off about whatever he's feeling at this very, very second. The car did something that I do not like, whatever it may be. I'm going to tell you exactly what it did, and I'm not happy about it. We got to figure it out. Is it something, if it's in a race, is it something we could fix right now? Whatever. Lewis seems like he's casting displeasure, overall displeasure, and downtroddenness about that he just carries over from race to race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And listen, I don't know what it's like to go from driving the most, the dominant car year in and year out to instantly not being competitive. But still, you are the team leader. Tighten it up, bro.
Yep.
Don't, please, for the love of God, don't set the example anymore for George to keep complaining.
Done that enough already.
Because God, if there's anything he can one up Lewis on, it's whine and complain.
Whine.
And it's scary how good he is at it already.
He got good quick.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that whole thing in that team, that dynamic of that team needs a reboot.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Oh, all right. Let's keep this thing moving here. On to McLaren. So
I was kind of surprised that they didn't have the pace to stay in front of George.
I thought I originally thought they were both going to have it.
I thought one of them would.
I mean, hell, Piastri had a fantastic qualifying, put it on P3.
Yeah.
And looked really good. And then, beginning of the race, Lando had the pace over him. But I mean, overall, just as a general statement, they have done phenomenally well here recently, as has Piastri. I mean, so look, to kind of compare this to what we were talking about with Lewis and George, you've got what started out as a shit car that has progressed and gotten better, and it has had its moments where it was really able to shine. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't really remember a race where they just flat out didn't shine together or didn't just kind of miss the mark together. I mean, I know there was times where there was some disparity between them, but not
there's been
to the extent of
extenuating circumstances, right?
Yeah.
Like in Brazil, Piastri gets punted off and gets like he does the whole race a lap down.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why they would have even done that. To be honest, like why would they have not saved all that mileage on the engine?
Yeah, I don't know.
In which case, even if you get a red flag, like you're still starting dead last.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you get put back on the lead lap.
Yeah. Park the car. Hell, if a red flag comes out, you get to unlap yourself. So even if you're 25 laps down,
well,
hey,
no,
you're back on.
that happened originally, but I'm saying like because it didn't, because of the way the rules are written, because they were in the pits when the red flag was thrown.
Oh, that's right.
So they didn't get to unlap themselves.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Why would you have even if you get put back on the lead lap, I absolutely jump back in that race.
Mm-hmm.
But like even if another red flag comes out, I don't know, maybe you run half the race and then retire the car. Just in the event that another red flag comes out and you're able to like have time to work your way through the whole field.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe the data was
maybe they needed it. Yeah.
Maybe it was that important for them to get,
Could be. Yeah. I mean, that could absolutely be.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'd have to venture a guess and say that's probably what it is. Because I don't see any other logical reason to do otherwise.
Like Danny Rick was in the same situation. I understand why you would let him continue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, McLaren, they've been having some lightning quick pit stops all season, and then they shit the bed when it counted.
Yeah, they did.
That's what cost Lando track position.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I really don't know if George would have been able to get by him had it not been for that.
Yeah, because
he forfeited like
was it 3 seconds?
Over 3 seconds on that pit stop.
It was like a 5-something second pit stop.
5 point something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, George was like 2-3.
That was a rough one. Yep. Yeah, I mean, McLaren's got one for Lando, one for Piastri, right? The two fastest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It was one for each of them. It wasn't like two of them for Lando. You know, they've just, which I mean, it's the same pit stop team and all, but they've been seriously good on those all year.
1.8.
Yeah, one of them was a 1.8, one was a 1.9, I think.
Yeah.
Which I don't remember. I know one of them is an all-time record.
The
Was it
1.8.
the 1.9 was the record, and then they reset that again with
No,
the 1.8, or is the
no, the
1.8 just the
1.8. The
record?
1.8 was first.
Okay. Yeah. That's that's fast.
Yeah.
That's
It's
insane.
insane.
Mm-hmm.
I would, dude, it's weird though, because I don't know what those clock, like what starts that clock and stops it. I know it's all electronic, but like what starts and stops it? Because when I'm watching it,
It doesn't look that fast.
if you look from when the jackman touches the car, when those wheel guns first go on, if that's, or when the car wheels stop, I, I don't know. By the time like up and down, I don't know. It
Yeah.
just doesn't seem it. I always, I'm not just talking about these in general, just in general, it doesn't. I'll always watch it and feel like, man, that doesn't seem like that amount of time.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you because I've had that same thought, and I'd be curious to look that up and see what is it once tires leave the ground and touch back down? Is it, like, yeah, I think it helped to know what that start stop point is.
I think it's supposed to be stationary, like the amount of time stationary.
Mm-hmm. That's what you would think, right? Whether it's up or down, from wheel stop to wheels turn.
But is it? I don't know. Do they still have the grounding strips on there?
I
Probably
don't
not,
think
because they don't.
so.
No, because they don't refuel anymore.
Right? Yeah.
That's all that was for.
Yep.
Hell, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I thought McLaren was gonna have a stronger race pace. I legitimately thought they were gonna give Leclerc problems, and that never seemed to be the case. That was never
No, that
in
wasn't.
question.
Nope. Mm-mm. Yeah.
You know, I'm really curious. I'm really curious. Had Ferrari gotten a little more aggressive with their strategy for Charles, where they would have wound up relative to Max, because they gave up their lap time with Max doing 2 undercuts. And then obviously he gapped some seconds at the end whenever Charles let off to let Checo through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um I mean, Charles probably gave up 5 or 6 seconds right there.
Yeah. I'd say
In
that
total
gap was
in
somewhere
total
in like
time.
the 12, 12 to 15 range, I'd say. Somewhere in there.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look,
Yeah.
see what it was, but
Because it wasn't some astounding gap like what Max has been putting on the
no, no,
field.
no. But like if you flip that around and let's say Charles undercuts Max twice,
Mm-hmm.
I think things get very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I think Max came out that first pit stop and it gained him about 4 seconds. And Then the second one, he was up to 8 or 9.
I don't remember looking at the times, but sounds about right. But I mean, I agree. I would have liked to see them be
I
more
get why they
aggressive,
didn't. I get why
right?
they didn't.
But I think last race of the season, you're trying to secure P2, not
Yeah, no
trying to
doubt. No
fight.
doubt. No doubt. 100%.
But yeah,
So I'm
I agree. Had they been, I think they had the possibility
and look, I'm
of
sure Max had time in hand,
he
but on
always
the flip
does.
side, bro, like we already saw early on that first stint, like Charles was better on his tires.
Mm-hmm.
They pitted Max because Charles was starting to freaking run him down and would have passed him that lap.
Yep.
Like it's not a question. Charles would have absolutely passed him on that lap. He was down in the DRS.
Mm-hmm.
Like well in the DRS.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not like bumping it. I think he was down to like 0.65, 0.75, something like that. At its
It was.
closest.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 8.5, 7.5.
I think it was 7 something. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, would have been interesting, man. Anyway, we're derailing here.
All right. You wanna kick it on down to the next?
Yes.
Who we got?
You go ahead and wax poetic about your boy Alonso. I'll be right back.
I don't know what there really is to wax poetically about, because the end of the season was vastly different from the beginning. Doesn't change the fact that I like Alonso, but yeah, I mean it's more so. I think we saw, aside from what we saw with the car itself and the team and the numerous conversations we've had about how they are unable to develop it. That aside, I think all that played into Alonso's state of mind, general mentality. Because once they kind of started, the car started falling off a little bit, we saw and heard rumblings and or radio clips, whatnot, from Alonso, and you could kind of tell like he wasn't this happy-go-lucky person that he was at the beginning of the year. So yeah, I don't know what's going on there behind the curtain, but it doesn't really appear great. So, is it Alonso kind of just being Alonso, or is there more to it? Who knows? Maybe him and Stroll aren't getting along as well as what old Daddy would have wanted them to. But yeah, I mean, Alonso came in what was he, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then Stroll was in P10. So who knows? But this was a I feel like a better showing from them than what we've seen quite recently.
They've come on in the last few races.
Last few, yeah, after they had a massive
Since
fall
Brazil,
off.
yeah.
But that's man, what I was talking about while you stepped away was just how Alonso knew when he started the year, it was like it was like a changed Alonso, right? Like he just seemed to have this different attitude about him in a really good way. But then once the car started falling away from them, he changed right there with it.
Mm-hmm.
And, was that just him being frustrated with the car's performance, or was there more going on behind the scenes, or, was it issues with, the whole, Lance and Lawrence dynamic, or, like that? I feel like with that team and with kind of what we saw from Alonso, there's so many possibilities, so many things that we just don't know how things are really handled.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, but on the flip side, you had to know that going in. Like, that
Yeah,
was not a secret going in that you just discovered now that you're on the inside.
agreed. Yes.
So
Yes.
I don't find that to be a valid argument if that would be the case.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
anytime you're going into a team of anything where, it would be like if one of Jerry Jones's kid played quarterback for the Cowboys. Like, yeah, there's going to be probably some leeway there, you know, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. We'll see what happens with Lance this year. I'd be willing to bet this next season is his make or break.
Think so?
Yeah. If he has another season where for the majority of the season he's that far off of the potential of the car for whatever reason, yeah, I think you have to move on because you're at that point you're costing the team millions of dollars.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with that at all. Don't know it'll happen.
I think it will. I think it will at some point because, like we talked about, Lawrence Stroll, while he is the owner, I forget
He's
what
also got people to answer to still.
there's still other investors. There's still a board. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not, he doesn't own it outright.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what else I really have to say about Aston.
Yeah. That's about all I got.
I did see a funny quote from him in regards to his battle with Lewis. He said, somebody said, asked him about it, whatever, and he's like, yeah, well, Lewis has been doing this for a lot of years and has a lot of experience and a lot of tricks and all that, but I have more.
That sounds like an Alonso quote.
And there was, I guess, I didn't catch the question to it. I just heard his quote. A lot of times, like when you see that, you can't really hear what question is actually posed to them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there was a very strange moment in that race where Lewis came on the radio and was like, he brake tested me.
Oh, yeah.
And then they went to the onboard of Alonso and he did something squirrely. Like he almost pulled completely off the track. And I think what he was trying to do is get Lewis to cross the DRS line first. But it
Yeah.
was a very dicey way of doing it.
Yeah, it almost looked like he was trying to pull so far offline to where he could just hit his brakes at any point and force Lewis right on by him, right?
Right.
But he wasn't far enough out of Lewis's line for that to really be the case.
Mm-hmm.
And I get why he pulled right, because had he pulled left, like, they were way too close to the corner. You're trying to get that DRS detection line, so you're too close for him to just like have dove left.
And you don't want to box yourself out of the corner.
Right, because now you just picked up the DRS for nothing because you completely screwed your corner.
Right.
So yeah, it looks like that's what he was trying to do, and in not Alonso fashion, he did it terribly, and it didn't work. Normally some kind of slick, Sly Fox kind of move like that, that's his MO. Like, he's got that, but yeah, that was odd.
I am kind of surprised he didn't get any kind of consequences for that.
Yeah, I remember seeing it come across the screen that it was noted or being investigated. I don't remember which one, and it was driving erratically.
Mm-hmm.
But then I never heard anything more about it.
That was kind of surprising.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way that he pulled that move, like, typically you see that move set up when somebody is closing you down quickly and is going to at least go out for a pass, and you allow them to gain that line. You don't get on the brakes while they're still behind you.
Right.
Like, directly behind you.
Mm-hmm.
In line behind you. That's, I don't know, that was not very well calculated. And
No,
I think Lewis had every right to be pissed off.
Mm-hmm. Trying to see if anything, maybe after the fact or whatnot came of that with Alonso, but I'm not seeing anything yet. Oh, come on. There we go. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it was he was. Oh, okay. Stewards investigated Alonso, but decided to take no action over the matter. Okay.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I didn't care for that move.
No, that was Lewis, not like
the thing is, like, Lewis wasn't remotely close enough for that move to really be on.
Yeah, no, he was trying to force it from way too large of a distance.
Yeah.
That was vastly different from when we saw Max and Charles doing that back and forth to each other.
Yeah, but like,
also they were side by side doing that.
What would happen is Max would already be going for the pass, and Charles would then short break it.
Yeah.
And it would also just set up the over under, essentially. But he would short break it to just make sure. But at that point, Max had already pulled alongside.
Yeah, and the first one or two times it was just that. Then Max.
That's the key element.
Yeah, then Max kind of wisened up to what Charles was doing.
Well,
and it was kind of like
the next week at Saudi.
Yeah, that game back
when
and
they
forth
both just did the double lock.
Yeah.
that was cool. That was just, but they were still side by side.
They were side by side, right? That's
just
key
gamesmanship.
Yep.
And then Charles realized they didn't just rocket it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's just gamesmanship there. That's nothing dirty.
No.
Not dirty, but potentially dangerous.
Yeah.
That's the kicker.
Mm-hmm.
What Alonso did was dangerous.
It was. It was. Agreed. All right. Let's see what we got
Yuki
next.
had a great drive. Led the race for a little bit. That was
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, he led some laps. Best, I'd say best drive of the season for him.
Yeah, for sure.
And they just barely missed out on getting Williams in the constructors.
Yeah. How about that last lap defense against Lewis though?
He did good on that. Yeah.
I mean, Lewis did get squirrely when he got back on the power,
Yeah, well,
but
that's what it was.
he kind of put himself in a precarious situation by the angle that he took into the
Yeah,
to the
when he
corner.
threw it in hard there.
Yeah.
Like he carried a lot of speed in, had a really weird angle to try to
I
get
mean,
himself
Yuki may
out
have
of.
got him anyway.
He might have. He might have. Because Yuki just kind of sat over and maintained the good line through there. He still may have got him on the way out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Danny Rick just barely missed out there at the end on the points. Not really much else there.
Yeah, I don't. So I don't want to go get into every team out of the points. I want to spend a little bit of time about Alpine because again,
Your boy was hot.
why do they continue to blatantly screw over Pierre with the strategies when he's leading and having better races than Ocon?
Mm-hmm.
And they continually give Ocon preferential strategy. Bro, did you hear him when he realized that Ocon undercut him?
Yeah. Oh, dude, he was
He was
furious.
furious. And I don't blame him. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, but it doesn't make any sense. Like, for one, Pierre had been ahead in the drive. Like, Pierre's your leading driver.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Was it something like we know Ocon's Alpine's golden boy?
Yeah.
But was it some kind of coordinated effort to maybe get him to finish ahead of Gasly? I don't know. I don't know what else it could be.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they finished 4 points apart.
Yeah. But I mean, it didn't matter in this one, but there was quite a few that it did.
Mm-hmm.
This is not like the first or second time that this has happened.
No, it's not.
I mean, we're talking about the last 3 weeks in a row, I think, giving Ocon preferential treatment when Gasly is being ahead at the first stint and being in a better position in the race.
Yep.
Not to mention the screw job that they did him in Suzuka.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a recurring thing. And again, you'd said it earlier about Mercedes, but man, if I could be a fly on the wall anywhere, it'd be inside of there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just cannot figure out why they would do that repeatedly.
I mean, the only thing that seems to be obvious is just favoritism for their quote unquote golden boy. Like there doesn't seem to be any other, it'd be one thing if Gasly and Ocon were vastly separated in points and Ocon was right there on the cusp of getting somebody else, in the championship, right? That'd be one thing. It's the last race. Yeah, but that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Like there seems to be no other outside influence other than just with favoritism within the team is the only thing that it appears to be.
Yeah, I mean, look, they were almost 100 points clear of the team behind them. So, like, it's not even like it I don't know. There's not a whole lot. And I mean, shit, like Ocon was way clear. He was double the points of Albon, who was directly behind him.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure looks like they were trying to play the championship results to their own liking.
Mm-hmm.
Of not having the new guy come in and beat our boy.
Right. Which he did.
He did. Yep, he did.
So, all right. Do you want to go over the let's just briefly kind of bullet point and wrap on the F1 Commission meeting headlines?
Yeah, we can dive into that a bit more on another one. But yeah, we can bullet point it. So
just kind of pertinent news to look forward to.
Yeah, so
I guess hearing more about throughout the off season.
Yeah, a couple of the topics that were brought up was a revised weekend timetable. More so, looked like just kind of amending the scheduling a little bit, or not even the scheduling, the order of things is what it sounded like. When sprint quality was going to happen versus when race quality would happen, that sort of thing. They talked about a reverse grid for the sprint race and possibly making it a non-points thing. To not go down too much of a rabbit hole on that, I think that is a horrible idea.
That's not what I thought you were going to say. I wasn't fist pumping to that.
thought I was going to the tire blankets.
Yeah.
No, not the tire. You're against the tire blankets.
No, I am 100% pro tire blanket.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. They're sticking around for a little bit longer, but
love it. We'll get to that one. We're not going to just dance over that one.
Yeah, but the reverse grid thing, I think is dumb. Yeah,
you have to have.
It's a lot of fun. It makes it fun for the drivers. They're just trying to make it a show, right? They're trying to make it a show for the fans and all that. We don't need you to put on a show. We just want racing, good racing.
So here's where I think that could be a relevant scenario, okay? Because they're talking about like discussing if points are to be awarded. I think you should award points down to 10th, just like the race. Obviously, a scaled back version, but that would what that would do is allow for the battle at the back of the grid, constructors wise. That would allow them the opportunity, more real opportunity to score points and to actually have those positions mean something and sort it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So
I
like
just don't
you
think
can't pay it down short because I feel like I think you have to go to 10th at just a scaled back version of points, even if it's just 10-1.
Yeah, yeah, but you can't reverse it. You can't do a reverse grid. If so, there's two sides to that. You can't do a reverse grid because we are talking the pinnacle of motorsports, and we are talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. Reverse grid is for hell. We've done a reverse grid for one of our races. It's local, regional, amateur racing. They do that in a lot of local, regional, amateur circle track stuff. Maybe they do that in higher level circle track. I don't know. I don't do roundy round crap. But you cannot do that in this. For one, it's nobody's going to have that. If it's a points race, they're not going to have that because that's stupid. So on the other side, okay, it's not a points race. Well, then guess what? None of them are going to show up on the grid. What is the point in putting the mileage, the wear and tear, the risk on their cars that you're not giving them the allowance to build a second car for their drivers just for sprint races, right? Or just for these exhibitions or whatever. You're not doing that. So why are they even going to show up to the grid if it's not for points? Right? You're, again, hundreds of millions of dollars. Like there's no just for fun and game about it. Like it's real shit.
Yeah.
The invert can't happen. Cannot.
So I tend to agree with that. I was just kind of playing devil's advocate. I think it would be.
I think
I think it would spice up the actual points collection for the back of the grid.
Yeah. No, I think what you did was provided a possible way to mitigate it.
But
I don't think it's terrible, but it's still just no.
How about you do this? You don't have any sprint races until the back half of the season. Okay? You want more competition, but the big teams hate these sprint races.
Mm-hmm.
What if the second half of the season, the bottom half of the drivers get to participate in sprint race and points pay down to 6th?
Still not going to fly though. If there's points involved, it's got to be 100% legit, and everybody's got to, there's no good way to do it. There's just not at this level.
I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it more interesting and not a dead giveaway for the race. But I mean, to be perfectly honest, like there's no way to do that without doing a reverse grid. Otherwise, it's not. Just scrap it.
Yeah, because newsflash, Max has started towards the back of the grid and still won by miles. So what's an invert really going to change?
Not on a sprint, though.
No, not on a sprint. No, not on a sprint. Correct. But yeah, it just no. All right. We said we weren't gonna spiral here. Next bullet point: tire blankets through 2025.
Let's go.
So they're still going to keep the 13. Yeah, good.
You got to add. Not only are they why are they scrapping the plan to ditch tire blankets?
Well, I was going to lead that in with the next one because it's about tires too. So they're going to keep the 13 sets of tires for the weekend, but the overall goal is to have a tire formulated that is not so susceptible to overheating and provides closer, tighter racing.
Hmm.
It's almost like we've said that before.
Who's been saying that forever?
Yeah. It's almost like they need a second tire manufacturer for them to keep each other honest.
Yeah, boy.
Man.
That would be fantastic.
That's a wild idea, isn't it?
But
yeah.
You know, another thing that they need to do, and this weekend's a perfect example of why. They need to give you more than 2 fucking sets of hard tires for the weekend.
Yeah.
You can't even practice with one like on a weekend like this.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Nobody had any idea what the hell that tire would do.
Well, and how many times have we got to a race, right? And they throw the hard tires on, and it's like, we don't know what's going to happen. You know, we're going to find out here. Like that shouldn't be the case.
No.
Shouldn't.
Absolutely should not. Like,
yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
Quit trying to be.
Again, I bring you back to point A, because it is the most important part of really all of these discussions. This is the pinnacle of motorsports.
F1, quit trying to act like you're saving the environment. You're not. All right? Yeah. Give them boys enough tires to get the right data that we freaking need to have good racing.
Mm-hmm. They are working to improve driver cockpit conditions to the extent of some type of scoop to bring more airflow into the cockpit, as well as some, they didn't really elaborate on anything specifically, but some additional measures to improve driver conditions in the cockpit, especially in those more extreme weather conditions. Hey, I've got an idea. Give them a cool suit. Let them run a freaking cool suit. Okay? That's all they need. It's, I don't know, does mine hold 2 gallons of water? So we're talking 16 pounds plus the cooler and some lines. Like,
which is massive in F1.
Yeah, I mean, it's mad, but hey,
if they all run it.
Yeah, if they're all running it, then so what? Give them a freaking cool suit. Problem solved.
Yeah, and if health is such a concern, then hey, if the ambient temperature is going to be over a certain degree, it's mandatory.
Yeah.
Everybody runs it.
Yep.
Driver safety.
Nobody's at the advantage or disadvantage.
Driver safety.
That's right. Something about which, again, there was no elaboration. I don't really know what they mean or how they would plan to accomplish this, but floor component safety measures to prevent damage to other cars. I don't really know how they go about that or what the idea really is behind that one. I mean, I get
Red Bull spikes on the Mercedes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So that's one. And then we've got doing some testing on various options for the wheel covers to improve wet weather visibility. And the last one is a ban on any 2026 car development before the start of 2025, which seems a little weird to me. Seems like they are going to make a change to something that has already been confirmed as known for those new regs. And there's going to be a change, however big or small, and they don't want people developing towards it yet, right? Because obviously we don't know everything for those regs, but you know that at least the bigger teams, what is known, they are already developing towards. Whatever little bit of information is confirmed, they're developing towards it already.
Well, the thing is, David, like I have a problem with. Well, hold up. First of all, it could just be it could be that, or they just want to stop one team getting a massive advantage and dominating a whole era.
Could be, yes,
But
yes.
where was I going with that other point?
Looks like that train derailed.
It did. But no, like when it comes to like the okay, no, I know where I was going with it. I don't think, for one, I think this was a pretty short set of regulations.
Mm-hmm.
But we're only in year 2 of the current regulation. You had a massive, massive change from 21 to 22. And we're only in year 2 of that. So I think it's a little premature to be even thinking about releasing specs for the next set of regulations.
Well,
Because
what do you think about this?
we still don't know how effective and exactly what works and what doesn't with these to the T. You know what I mean?
No, we don't. But what do you think the chances are that this might be the new norm? Because previously, with a longer set of regs, after a couple years, one team establishes dominance and then runs away with it for the rest of those regs, more or less. What do you think the chances are that maybe this is going to be the new norm in an effort to combat that?
Well, this isn't new. Because they changed, so you have offsetting regulation changes here.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have cars looking similar for a long period of time, kind of like from 10 to, well, I guess from 9 through like 15, 16.
Mm-hmm.
They look size wise, all that. They were fairly similar. Obviously things evolved and changed along the way, but in the middle of that, you had the engine change from naturally aspirated back to the turbo hybrid. Then that came in 14. Then in 17, you had a new set of aero regulations kick in. No engine change. And then it was supposed to be 21 was the new aero regs. Obviously, that got derailed due to COVID, pushed back a year, so it became 22. But man, you got 22, 3, 4, 5. You got 4 years of a regulation that is the most drastic regulation change in F1 history. I don't think that's enough. I mean, I think you could have tweaks, but man, like it seems like they're aiming for more of a shakeup, and it's like I don't like doing that and an engine shakeup in the same year.
Or maybe the engine is changing drastically and we're going back to V10s.
Now, I will trade anything aero in the world they want to do to go back to naturally aspirated. Even V8s.
Even V8s, yeah. I was gonna say, look, at this point, I'd be cool with that. I'd be happy with it.
I don't care. I don't care what they want to do aero-wise at that point.
Do whatever you want. Bring back a V8 or a V10 naturally aspirated.
But I'm going to tell you what. Electric ain't the future.
Preferably a V10.
Yeah. V10 sustainable fuels. Freaking we already got Formula E. We don't need that shit in Formula 1. Like you made the technology, you aided society. Ford, all the trucks have the power boost, whatever they want to put their name on it now, of the F1 style engine where it's just electric, extra power.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you so much for the contribution in saving the planet. Now let's get back to real freaking racing and loud ass cars and
screaming to 19,000 RPMs.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I'm not greedy. We can cap it at 16. But dude, F1's about developing technology. Everybody knows sustainable fuels is the future, not electric. Electric is not sustainable for our planet or for our grids.
Mm-hmm.
So be an asset to society.
Yeah.
Don't be a follower to political correctness bullshit.
Look, I'm doing my part this winter. My car is getting converted to E85. I'm going corn. F1 should do the same. Follow my lead. Naturally aspirated, big power. It's exactly what's happening here. Let me show you the way.
You're going to have to elaborate on that. What is getting converted to E85?
The new motor I'm building. I'm switching from running 93 to E85.
Oh, your race car.
Yeah, race car. Yeah. What else would I be talking about?
I didn't know. You have a plethora of vehicles.
I have a few. I mean, trying to whittle it down, actually. I don't really have many anymore. So
his other vehicle is a diesel.
Yeah. Eco-friendly. It's got enough emissions bullshit on it. It is eco-friendly. Jesus.
When you black dust the
No, it doesn't do that, which I don't want it to do that because that's just wasting. That's just morons being morons, and it's just unburned fuel when you see that.
Makes funny TikToks, though.
You're just wasting. I mean, yeah, look, it's a lot of fun. We've all done it, all right? It's a lot of fun. But we're older. We're wiser now. It's dumb.
No, we're not. We're older. We're not.
We're older. Wiser. We're theoretically wiser and more mature. But no, they put so much emissions bullshit on the diesels now that you couldn't do that if you wanted to.
I mean, in case we're middle light, I'll show you more mature.
So, all right, well, that's a whole nother rabbit hole that we're not going to get into. But all right, I think we call this one a wrap. What you say?
Yeah, I guess I don't have anything to add to Abu Dhabi 23.
All right.
One more thing. I just want to clarify. Thinking about it in my head has been bothering me. I literally meant Leclerc let Checo pass and literally just fall in line. I'm not saying race with Checo and try and team pull away.
No, I know what you're saying, but
I literally just meant fall back in line and mitigate the gap. That's it.
Okay. All right. We're going to wrap this one up. So I will leave you with Max Verstappen's quote after Abu Dhabi. He said, "It's been an unforgettable season. It was emotional on the in-lap driving the RB19 for the last time. This car and team has given me so much. I have to say a big thank you to everyone at Red Bull. We've had an incredible year. Absolutely true. Fantastic year. Fantastic everything from that team, as we've said over and over and over again. So why not finish out this episode reiterating that? Another big congrats to Max, congrats to Red Bull. Absolute dominance, record book kind of year that'll be talked about for forever. So we'll wrap it up on that, and we will see y'all. What do we got coming next? We'll have a season recap, 2023 season recap up next.
It'll be before Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll talk about Max some more.
Yeah, we will, for sure. All right. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us.
Later.
Later.